today, we will propose to ban all Russian oil from Europe. This will be a complete import ban on all Russian oil, seaborne and pipeline, crude and refined. We will make sure that we phase out Russian oil in an orderly fashion.
All right, well, for more on this story, France 24's Doug Herbert is with us. Doug, you've personally been what we could call a sanctions skeptic. Aren't these getting serious, though?
Well, they are serious sanctions. The question to ask is, how much will Russia be able to sort of shrug them off, as it tends to do? The Russian sort of narrative, the policy around Western sanctions doesn't hurt a bit. Look, we're resilient. We can take anything. Bring it on. And also whether the European EU member states will actually play ball. That is to say, whether or not they will go along with these sanctions. What's significant here is, they're the 6th round of sanctions, and they target specifically oil. Now, why is this important? Because, as we know, oil and gas income, revenues from oil and gas exports, account for almost half of Russia's entire federal budget, 45%. That is enormous. When we talk about Russia not being diversified in its economy, this is the key example of that, how it relies on fossil fuel revenues to fund everything, including, right now, its war machine. Now, Europe, since the beginning of this war, in late February, has paid almost 50 billion euros for Russian energy. Now, that's not just oil. That's oil and gas and coal. And of that, France has paid about 4 billion euros. Germany, more than twice that, about 9 billion euros. Nothing to sneeze at. So essentially, those who make the argument, anyone who buys any Russian energy, for whatever reason, is, by definition, somehow complicit in the war in Ukraine because they are helping, by definition, to finance Putin's war machine. Where do we go from here? Well, there are right now fractures within the EU. Barely have they gotten out of the blocks with these oil sanctions. And remember, this is just oil. This isn't gas. Gas is a much more even thornier problem. The oil, already you have Hungary, Slovakia holding out. These sanctions have been phased over many months. So over the first 6 months, you will have crude oil banned, raw oil coming in from Russia. Over the next 6 months, it's by the end of the year, a longer timeline, that all even refined oil products will be banned. The idea behind phasing it in stages is to make them credible, show that we're really in here for the long haul. We've thought this out here in Europe, and we are giving countries that need it because they're heavily reliant on Russian oil time to find alternative supplies. Hungary, which is extremely heavily dependent on Russian oil. It's against these types of sanctions, really, and it's looking for more time. It's been given till the end of 2023, a longer timeline than the others. Whether they will work, well, every time there's a new round of sanctions, we say, these are going to be serious, and Russia always seems to find an end run around them, and often that end run is the fracturing within Europe itself, lack of solidarity.
Let's talk a bit about the situation on the ground there in Ukraine. We're seeing that massive ground offensive on the Azovstal steel plant. We're seeing the shelling in Lviv, which had been relatively spared for the past couple of months. What's coming next in Ukraine?
We've actually seen more shelling in the West in recent weeks. What's happening is clear. Right now, Putin never anticipated that there was going to be this much solidarity from the West with the Ukraine, especially this degree of the flow of arms coming in towards the East, from the West, from NATO and NATO members towards Ukraine. Putin is lashing out, literally. He is enraged by the fact that these arms are coming in. He has given several warnings to the West, you better stop, invoking hinting that they will become co-belligerent proxies in this war if they continue the weapons flow. So he's been lashing out across Western Ukraine, across central Ukraine. We've had 6 railway stations hit in the West and center Ukraine overnight, according to Ukrainian officials, hit by missiles, cruise missiles. Some of those cruise missiles fired from ships, Russian ships in the Caspian Sea. We've had electrical power substations, 3 of those hit in the Lviv district, the Lviv Oblast. Why is this important? They're aiming at railways and railway infrastructure. Clearly, the war machine, Russia's war machine, is trying to impede the ability of those weapons to be transported onwards to the theater of battle right now, which is in eastern Ukraine, mostly in the Donbass region. But we could continue more of this, more to come. Putin, like I said, when Putin is enraged or feels backed into a corner and feels like he has to save face, he will ramp up that war machine and target everything in sight, left and right.
Yeah, and among those potential targets, earlier the Russian defense minister was saying today that any NATO convoy bringing anything into Ukraine would be a legitimate target for Russia.
Thank you very much. They've been saying that several times,
Absolutely. France 24's Doug Herbert. Thank you very much for that.